Hi guys, welcome to Life on Mars Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, you might want to check that out first. In this video, we'll look at Rick Wakeman's piano playing in the chorus and also the interlude and the outro, where the guitar takes over the melody. Let's see what Rick can teach us about, being awesome. When we last left our hero, he was setting up the chorus with one of my all-time favorite chords, namely this one. Come on, that's a gangster chord, but it gets even better. Check out the genius resolution of this chord into the first bar of the chorus. C flat sus 2, sharp 4 to B flat. The voice leading here is so beautiful. The bottom four notes move down a half step. Voice 2 moves up a half step, and then the F on top stays the same. So we got contrary motion and oblique motion going on at the same time. You put it all together and you get one of the best pieces of voice leading in a pop song that I've ever heard. Okay, so now we're in the chorus, which is in the key of B flat major. If you remember, the song started in the key of F for the verse, then a bunch of weird shit happened in the pre-chorus, and now we're in B flat. So let's quickly go through the chord progression of the chorus. We start on the tonic chord B flat, then we move to the 4 chord E flat, then in bar 3 we got 6 minor, which is G minor. Those are all diatonic, but in bar 4 we get this. G flat augmented, which is obviously not a diatonic chord in the key of B flat. So what's that doing there? Well, one of the things that is helpful when we're trying to understand a particular chord is looking at the chord before or after, or both. And in this case, we got the G minor on one side of the G flat augmented and F on the other. So it looks like the G flat augmented is some kind of chromatic passing chord connecting the diatonic 6 minor chord to the diatonic 5 chord. Also, remember in the verse and pre-chorus, we talked a lot about something called a line cliché. And this right here is a less obvious version of that same idea. If we start with the G minor triad, and then move the lowest note down a half step, we get G flat augmented. Normally, we'd expect that chromatic movement to continue to form a B flat over F chord. Instead, we get a regular F major triad. Okay, so check this out. Here is a diatonic 1, 4, 6 minor 5 progression like you'll find in a million pop songs. And that's almost what happens in the first 5 bars of the chorus here, except for bar 4, where we have that chromatic passing chord G flat augmented. Quick plug, I offer one-on-one coaching as well, so if you're interested in working with me, there's a link to some information down in the description. After the F major chord in bar 5, in bar 6 we get an F minor chord, which is another type of non-diatonic chord, namely a modal interchange chord. Modal interchange is the practice of mixing chords from different scales or modes that share the same root. The most common version of this is interchanging chords between parallel major and minor scales. The chorus here is in the key of B flat major, and the F minor is borrowed from the key of B flat minor. In bar 7 we return to a diatonic chord C minor 7, and in bar 8 there's another modal interchange chord from the key of B flat minor, and that's E flat minor 7. That whole 8-bar phrase then repeats, and then we get a 4-bar extension of the chorus that leads us into the interlude/guitar solo. And in these 4 bars we get another line cliché. Once again, it starts on a triad, in this case G minor, and then we just move the bottom note down to G flat augmented, B flat over F, and E minor 7 flat 5. Notice that this is the exact same thing as the line cliché at the very beginning of the song, except there it started with a major triad and here it starts with a minor triad. Check this out, here's an F chord. And now I'm moving the bottom note down chromatically. And once I hit the D, there's a pretty big gap between it and the A, which I can fill with the F sharp. And now the last 4 bars of the chorus do the exact same thing except starting on a G minor chord. Once I hit the E here, I have a pretty big gap between it and the B flat that I can fill with the G. And that gives me an E minor 7 flat 5 chord. So now let's look at the actual piano part, which, as you would expect with Rig, is super interesting, challenging to play, and very, very difficult to transcribe. If you're looking for ideas on how to make simple diatonic triads sound awesome, look no further. Here's bar 1. There's no fixed pattern in what he plays, it's constantly shifting and changing, but there are certain elements that show up multiple times. And one of them is a sort of stride pattern in the left hand, where you have a low bass note or octave and then you jump up to a chord, like so. There's similar stuff going on in the right hand, in that he often starts in the middle range at the beginning of a bar and then goes higher. There's also the 16th note fill at the end of the bar that we already encountered in the verse and pre-chorus. The next couple of bars are another example of how he applies the same basic concepts to different chords, or even the same chord in different bars, without copying anything exactly. Here's bar 2 of the chorus, and here's bar 3. You can see how he plays with similar ideas in all 3 bars, while always keeping it unpredictable enough to be interesting. I want to insert a quick disclaimer here. One of the hardest things to transcribe accurately are big chords, especially triads with a lot of doublings. For example, it's often very difficult to tell whether a note is actually being played or whether it's an overtone that's ringing from a lower key. And obviously there's other instruments playing here, plus it's a pretty old recording, so the fidelity is not what it would be in a more recent track. So, while I work very hard to get as close to the truth as I can, my transcription of a song as complex as this one is not gonna be perfect. In bar 4 of the chorus, he transitions to a different texture. He starts playing 2-note chords with a consistent 8th note rhythm, and that continues in bars 5 and 6. It's such a simple idea, but I think it's one of the best piano moments in the whole song. Here's how he expresses the F triad in bar 5. And in bar 6, he drops the A to A flat for the F minor chord. And then in the second half of the bar, there's a chromatic descending bass line that's played by the whole band. Here's the C minor 7 chord in bar 7. And then we got the E flat minor 7 in bar 8, which sounds like this. So that was an 8-bar phrase, which now repeats. And as always, that's a great opportunity to compare and notice the similarities and the differences in how he expresses the same chord progression at different points of the song. So just quickly, here's bar 9. I'm not sure how he played that, I do it like this. Here's bar 10. Bar 11. And bar 12. The F major and F minor bars are almost identical to the first time. In bar 15 he plays an E flat major triad in the right hand as opposed to a full C minor 7 chord like he did earlier. And then here's bar 16 of the chorus. Bars 17 through 20 are one of the most consistent sections of the whole song. He basically plays the same pattern in each bar. It sounds like this. Okay, that's the first chorus done. The second chorus is similar, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. If you like, you can check it out in my transcription, link below. One thing I do wanna point out though, is bars 9 through 12 of the second chorus, where he goes absolutely apeshit with arpeggios. Check this out. So earlier he threw in the occasional group of 16th notes, but here in the second half of the second chorus he plays mostly 16th notes for 4 bars straight. bar 9, bar 10, bar 11, and bar 12. Quick side note, sometimes I get comments that I should just play through the songs more. And the reason I don't usually do that is because I run into copyright problems and then YouTube gets mad at me. Okay, we got two short sections left. One is the interlude after the first chorus and the other one is the outro. And both of them have a lead guitar playing a prominent melody. And then there's also some strings action at the very end as well. So let's first look at the chord progression of the interlude. The chorus was in the key of B flat and the last chord of the chorus was E minor 7 flat 5. Now, which key do we find that chord in diatonically? The key of F major, right? So the E minor 7 flat 5 functions as a 7 minor 7 flat 5 chord, which has dominant function, and that sets up a modulation back to the key of F. The interlude is in the key of F, which is convenient because that's the key we'll need to be in for the second verse. The interlude is 7 bars long. We got F in bar 1, G minor in bar 3, A minor in bar 5, and B flat in bar 6. So they're just walking up the harmonized F major scale, aren't they? So then they went, what can we do to spice this up a bit more? Well, how about creating an extra chromatic harmonic step between these diatonic chords? So they connected the F to the G minor with an F sharp diminished 7 chord. But then the chord between G minor and A minor is D diminished 7. Well, D diminished 7 contains the same notes as G sharp diminished 7. So functionally, it's just an inversion of G sharp diminished 7. Both these are secondary diminished 7th chords, which are similar to secondary dominants, except even more posh. They act as dominant chords to their respective chords of resolution. The F sharp diminished 7 to the G minor, and the D diminished 7 to the A minor. Then we got the B flat chord in bar 6 of the interlude. And then in bar 7 they put in a B flat minor chord, which is a modal interchange chord from the key of F minor. And that leads us back to F major for the second verse. The actual piano part in most of this section is very similar to the last few bars of the chorus. Stride piano in the left hand and chords with octave displacement in the right. Here's bar 1. Notice the added 9th in here. Here's the F sharp diminished in bar 2. Then we got G minor in bar 3. And I'm pretty sure there's an F in there on beat 1. So that would make it G minor 7. Then we got D diminished 7 in bar 4. And then A minor in bar 5. In the last two bars, the texture changes again and he plays 6th intervals in a high register. This is reminiscent of the F to F minor move in the middle of the chorus. Except here it's quarter notes and not eighth notes. The outro is 10 bars long and it starts the same way as the interlude, with F, F sharp diminished 7 and G minor. But then it veers in a different direction. 3 bars of B flat over F, then a bar of E flat, a bar of E flat minor, and then the final resolution to B flat. Here's what Rick plays exactly. Bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, and then on the B flat over F in bar 4 he plays this, which he repeats in bars 5 and 6 with a slight variation. Here's the E flat major in bar 7, the E flat minor in bar 8, and the final B flat chord with a 4-octave arpeggio run. And that's it for today. If you got this far, you're a musical Navy SEAL. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.